Well, hello there, and welcome back to the Business of Becoming podcast. This is episode number 4. Now, my very special guest and I get a little woo-woo in this episode. Suzanne and I were in the same mastermind this year with Lewis Howes. We got to spend a lot of time together. We connected over our love of intuition, meditation, essential oils, and crystals. Suzanne Adams is a best-selling author, transformational speaker, and life purpose consultant that is sharing her zest for life with audiences around the globe. Suzanne was a speaker at the 2016 Hay House World Summit and has recently been featured on TV on NBC and Fox. Suzanne is thrilled to be leading workshops and retreats around the world. She also loves to share her secrets to success with you through her books, digital courses, and inspirational talks. Suzanne believes that having fun and following your passion are the keys to finding true happiness and living a life of fulfillment and joy. And in this conversation, we talk about how to find your intuition, how to harness your intuition. Suzanne generously gives us activities and strategies that we can use, meditations that we can use at home to really ground ourselves and start to harness and use our intuition in our businesses and in our life. So if you're into that kind of thing, you are going to love this interview. So without further ado, please welcome Suzanne Adams to the show.
Hey, Suzanne, thanks so much for joining me today.
Hey, Lori, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited and honored to be here today.
So selfishly, I'm really happy that you're here because this is a conversation that I've wanted to have with you for a very long time. We've sort of talked about it in our mastermind group a little bit and had some side chats, but it's something that I've been working on personally for the last, my whole life, but really for the last, several years. And I know that you're going to share a little bit about your story and how you came to the place where you are, but really I wanted to talk about how to identify intuition, how to use it to change your life, and also, this is the selfish part, how to be a sensitive person out in the world. Because for those of us who are in service, who have service-based businesses, I personally think that there's some level of intuitiveness, empathy, sensitivity. Otherwise, I don't know necessarily if we would have that drive to be of service to other people. So why don't we start off, if you're comfortable, talking about your experience with intuition and what you believe intuition is.
Yeah, so I believe that everyone has intuition. So it's everyone, you think about when you're like, oh, my gut told me this, or I knew I should have done that, but you didn't. That's your intuition. And then obviously the world talks about women's intuition and we talk about a feeling and a knowing. That's all intuition. And in business, very successful businessmen, they always say, follow your gut and follow your hunch. And that's intuition. But I believe that we are in the middle of a worldwide awakening, and people are really opening to what I like to call a multisensory personality. And I learned this from Gary Zukav, who wrote the book, The Seat of the Soul. And so I believe that we're all born with a very specific and unique life purpose. And when you align your personality with your life purpose, then that puts you in a state of what I call authentic power. To be in authentic power, you have to be tapped into your intuition, okay? So authentic power is when you're in a state of flow, when opportunities just show up, when the clients show up, when the bank account fills up, when everything is just working out for you because you're aligned with your higher self, with your divine being, with your higher purpose. So to me, intuition is a tool that you can use to make life easier, to make life more purposeful and really get into a new level and a new place of fulfillment. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And lately, because I've been practicing this and sitting quiet and really asking for intuition and guidance, I've had like 3 different occasions where I've had that, I should really check in or call or do this. And I followed through when normally I would just sort of brush it off. But now I know that I'm getting those downloads for a reason, and it actually saved me from going on a trip where my reservation had been canceled because I had this intuition to call ahead, which I never do. So it's, you know, once you start to honor them and listen to them, they come fast and furious, I find.
Yeah, for sure. And then from like a business perspective, if you're launching a business or even if you're in a corporate job, whatever it is, like your intuition, your divine team is always helping you, is always guiding you. So when you're open to that, you get hunches, you get hits, just like you got the hit to call the reservation. Sometimes you get the hit to go on Facebook at a certain time. Sometimes you get the hit to create a certain package or a certain offer that makes no logical sense, but you just feel like you need to do it. For me, writing my book, it made zero logical sense. I have no literary background. I was not an author, or even to aspire to be an author. But when I got into that place of knowing that I had a story to tell and it was really important and the timing was perfect to get it out, it was me following my gut. And I've since built an entire business from what started as a book. So I think if you're listening to this and you really want to grow in your business and you really just want to grow your intuition, either way, they go hand in hand. And it's important to tap into that.
And so what would be some of the steps that you would tell people to take? Because for me, when I went to my teachers who over the past couple of years, I said, I need to learn the strategies to separate what I think is anxiety from what I think is intuition. Because they were so messed up or intermeshed, I should say, because I'm a highly sensitive person in the world and I couldn't decipher what was what.
Yes. Okay. So when you're opening up your intuition, in the beginning, sometimes it will feel a little bit like anxiety because what's happening is you're allowing a higher frequency, and I can break down the law of vibration and how that works if you want. But you're experiencing a higher frequency coming into your physical 3D body. So that's where it like can feel just a little bit shaky at first. Okay. So when you have anxiety, when you're anxious, usually it means you're not connected to your inner guidance team, to your higher self, because you're like, oh my God, this is not going to work out, like blah, 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 blah. You know, like you're in that space and usually you're not really in your body and you're all up here. That's anxiety. When you can close your eyes, put a hand on your heart, put a hand on your belly, just take a deep breath. Let's just, everyone just do it really quickly and just breathe in. It resets. I felt it. I don't know if you could feel it. And then you exhale. Yeah, that's not anxiety. That's okay. Maybe there is something bigger I'm connecting to here. So that's tip number one, is just to put your hands on your heart, on your low belly, and take a deep breath. And you have to set an intention, because when you're opening up your intuition, all kinds of stuff can start to come through. For me, I am extremely clairvoyant. I have every intuitive ability that you can have. And it scared the crap out of me because I didn't know how to harness it. I'm also very sensitive. I'm an empath. I didn't know what those things were and how to, they were gifts. I didn't understand that they were gifts. And I didn't really know how to make it in this crazy world that's sometimes chaotic that we live in a little bit. And so I think if you're listening to this call, it's just, let's just say you're intuitive and you're probably feeling the urge to develop that intuition. And that's your soul calling you, saying it's time, saying that you have gifts that you can share. And gifts, it doesn't have to mean that everyone's like a psychic medium and you go and you do readings or anything like that. You use your intuition, you use your gifts to be of service in whatever it is that you're doing. So like for me, when I'm hosting retreats or working with clients, I will use my intuitive gifts to connect with the higher self or the divine team of the audience and deliver a message in that way. If you're a health coach, you can use your intuition to help see where somebody's energy is stuck, where their energy is blocked, maybe what supplement protocol that they need, what diet they need, what exercise, like all of that is a piece of your intuition. So to answer the first question that you asked me about anxiety or intuition, the easiest key is to check in with your breath, number one. Number two is consistent practice of meditation. Because basically you don't go to the gym and start lifting 50 pound weights, right? You start with something small. Meditation is the same. You're just doing the mental exercises. So sitting in stillness, sitting in quiet, and just connecting, setting the intention to connect with your higher power, with your divine team, whatever it is that God, the universe, whatever it is that you want to connect to, and start allowing things to come in. And you'll start to get messages, you'll start to have urges, and you'll start to be led to whatever it is that you're desiring. That was a long answer to your question. Does that make sense?
No, completely, because one of the things that I struggled with is, how do I know that this is truth? Like the trusting of it, right? When I get, so this is how it shows up for me. Like I can intuit, and then I feel, and then I can communicate it back. So like I'll feel someone's truth or whatever, but my block, I guess, was in trusting or knowing that like I'm not just making it up. Like I'm not just assigning feelings or like mirroring. Like I'm legit feeling perhaps feelings that they don't even know or are aware that they're even having, which is a hard thing to do, especially when you're out in the world trying to have a relationship, trying to build a business, trying to build a team, and you're getting all of these feelings that you're not even sure. Like I wasn't even sure what was real or what I was making up. So that is a very helpful explanation.
Yeah, and I think the thing is to start tuning into how you feel. So your truth is always going to feel good. Your truth is going to be like, okay, so if you get a hit or you're whatever it is, you're in meditation, or even if you're journaling and you're like because we're all telepathically having conversations, whether we're consciously aware of it or not. So when you get tuned in and you start to set the intention that you're ready to open this channel up, you'll get hits, and that's natural. It's to be like, am I crazy? Did I make that up? Was that my imagination? And your imagination essentially is your higher self or your divine team. So the thing is when you have the first hit, you move, you stay in that momentum, and you say yes, 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 and you go with it. Because otherwise, if you start second guessing yourself, you move from your heart into your head. And so if you can trust by the way you feel. It's just like how when you see something like a mentorship, or if you're dating someone, or a trip, and you're like, yes, I need to do that program. I have to go on that trip. Or like, yes, he's the one. And you get in that space and you move and you take action. But when you start to be like, well, that mentor is expensive, there's going to be travel involved, like I just don't know. When you're in that space, you're in the egoic space. But when you're, or with the guy, well, he's got a lot of baggage, it's not really the type that I would expect, that's again in your head. But when you're in that space of just feeling and going on your feeling, that's your intuition.
And so is there, other than meditation, is there like a physical movement? Because I have to admit, I don't meditate every day. I do things that are meditative, like I walk. For me, my morning magic time is pretty meditative, where I like write and I get in the flow and stuff. But is there something else other than meditation, maybe like journaling, something else that people can start to do?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's, sure, of course. I think it's very different for everyone. Like for me, everything opened up so fast and I could see things and hear things that I didn't know existed. I had to figure out how I could get my energy in tune. I had to fill up how I could keep my well filled up, and how I could not take on everyone else's stuff. And so for me, if I don't meditate, I've meditated twice a day, every day for over 3 years. And it's like, not because I'm like this super like dedicated, like whatever it is that you want to call it. It's because that's the way I feel the best. And that's the way my gifts are really going to help to serve. That being said, yoga absolutely helps. Journaling, absolutely. If you're an artist or a musician and you're writing, anytime you're doing that, you're in the flow, you're channeling. Any great athlete, any great Beyonce channels, all of Lady Gaga is channeling, Adele is channeling. When you get on a stage and you're in that space, that is channeling. When you're an athlete and you're doing all kinds of, the Olympians, they're channeling. So it's like, it really depends on you. And, you know, I would like to challenge everyone listening to this to try a 5-minute meditation every day for 30 days and just notice a difference in your energy. And maybe you don't feel a difference, but I would be willing to bet 90% of people will feel a difference. And then journaling is absolutely therapeutic and meditative, and so is exercise. So I think you have to just start to figure out what are your non-negotiables and what serves you the best. And it's going to change too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's definitely something that I did in terms of non-negotiables when I realized actually that in fact I did not have social anxiety disorder. I was an intuitive empath because for years and years and years, I had a really hard time going to places like bars or taking public transportation or being in really crowded scenarios where I would get super anxious, and I didn't realize that it was energy. So can you share with us like what that is and how we can guard and protect?
Yes. Okay. So, and also there's a shift happening right now around the language that is being used around protecting your energy. So I'll share that. I'll explain what it is first, and then I'll share my philosophy. So I'm just going to say it. You should be meditating every day, Lori.
I know I should. It's on my list. It's on my list.
If you have those feelings, I know you're superwoman as is, but just try it, because when if you have those feelings and you get scared in public places, that is your soul telling you like, I need the time to physically come in and expand. Okay. Because otherwise what happens is you're letting everyone else's energy into your body, into your system, into your energetic field. So the easiest way to explain this is everything breaks down. I'm gonna make it 90% because I think this will really help to explain. Everything breaks down into cells, atoms, and molecules. So everything has a vibration, right? My hands have a vibration. This computer has a vibration. The desk that you're sitting at, and our thoughts and emotions have a vibration. So if you're an empath, you're allowing all these frequencies around you to come in. And even if you're not an empath, this can still happen. But when you're sensitive, you're more prone to it. It's like you're a sponge and you just soak all of this stuff up because you're taking other people's stuff on. And that didn't even feel good to me to do that. So I'm just going to like push it all right back out and transmute it. So when you're in that space, what's really important is that you're very conscious about what frequencies you allow in your physical body, which hence if you sit in meditation, even just visualizing the sun coming over your entire being and just filling you up with higher frequencies, then it's almost like that's your suit of armor for the day. And you're setting the intention that this is the vibration I want to hold, this is the vibration I want to emit, and I'm not taking on other people's stuff. And so it sounds so silly, especially if you're, like we think things should be hard. I remember when I first learned this, I'm like, are you kidding me? I just visualize a color coming down and that fixes it. But it really does. And so in regards to protecting your energy, there's a little bit of a shift in mindset that's happening here, because when you set the intention to protect your energy, you're setting the intention that there's something negative coming at you. And that's not what you want to set. You want to set the intention, I believe, to lock in your radiance, to be the light. You want to set the intention to emit the higher frequencies that you want to emit versus protecting your energy, because there's so much power in what you intend to do. And so I'm really trying to teach that, because, the world is a different place right now. The veil is very thin. And yes, of course, there's lower, heavy, darker energy, but you can get that away without having to set the intention of protecting your energy. And this is like, this is a big shift, because every intuitive has taught that and thought that until like the past couple of years. So that's what I would say. Does that help?
Yeah, absolutely. So is there something, totally, that makes complete sense, because you don't want to say, like, I need protection, because then you're making an assumption that there's something to need protection from.
Right.
So what would you say, like, what would be the intention instead?
To lock in your radiance, but you have to, if you're going to lock in your radiance, but you have to fill yourself up. Just creating, just like you put on clothes or you put on sunscreen, you're not like, you are protecting yourself from the sun, but you're not like, that sun's going to get me, like you're just like, it's just part of your routine and part of what you do. Like that's kind of what you want to do, just with the visualizing the light. You can also use essential oils. You can take salt baths. You can use crystals. I mean, there's a ton of different tools. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't use these tools, but it's just about the intention. And it's about a level of self-care too, because you open yourself up, your intuitive channels up. It doesn't serve you to watch toxic news. It doesn't serve you to be around people that are gossiping. It doesn't serve you to do things that really don't feel good to you. So you have to start to take inventory of what you're allowing in your space, allowing in your energy, and shift some things.
And that's such a good segue, because I describe the way that I live is I live in a bubble. I curate my life, and I guard what I allow into the bubble. Like, I don't watch the news. I unfollow any stuff that gives me any yucky feelings on social media. Even relationships, like I've had to let some beautiful, loving relationships go because of the feelings and the energy and just the stuff that came with it, because I want to remain happy and radiant in my bubble. So have you ever had experiences like that? Like, I'm sure you live in a bubble too. You probably do.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I think it's really smart to do that, because what you're doing is you are choosing what frequency and what vibration that you choose to emit. And the truth is, like, based on the law of attraction, like attracts like, and you're going to attract what it is that you're emitting. So it's very smart that you're doing that. Sometimes you have to get in situations where, you'll feel uncomfortable, but you don't have to stay there. And it's like if I have relationships with people that bring me down or that are negative, then I just say, like, if you're going to act like that, we're not going to be friends. Like, I won't tolerate that. I won't allow that in my space. So we all have the power to do this. It's more about having the courage and understanding that you're worth so much more, and really, like, taking ownership. That there's no victim mentality here. It's about what you choose and what you decide, and we all have a choice.
Yeah. So when for example, my best friend watches the news, like CP, like we have a rolling news channel here, and when I come in her house, I shut it off, and she's always like, ha ha ha, like, you don't like the news. I'm like, I don't understand why you watch this. Like, why do you want to hear this over and over and over again all day long?
And it's toxic. It's definitely toxic.
Yeah, it's definitely toxic. And so even with the relationship piece, I know maybe a lot of people listening are thinking, well, that's nice for you that you can, let go of those relationships or keep yourself in a bubble. I can't do that because. So what are some ways that you can suggest to the listeners who are unsure of how to bubble themselves?
So basically, I mean, if you live with somebody who brings you down or gets on your nerves, or, in that scenario, because other than that, you pretty much can't get away from it. So I would say, first of all, know that we're all mirrors for each other, and what you see in them, you have somewhere in you, or you wouldn't be seeing it. So you can start to say, I learned this trick from Doreen Virtue, and it works really well. You say, I choose to release whatever it is about me that I'm witnessing in this person right now. Okay. So, like, it's so good. It works every time. And then you just start giggling. Like, I get to a point where I say it out loud and people know what I'm saying, but, like, it's funny, So that's tool number one. Number two is, start to try to go and see somebody's higher self, see their heart, see that, we're all doing the best we can with what we have. So viewing someone from a place of empathy and compassion, and just trying to see their highest self and focusing on that. And just also setting boundaries, like, because chances are, if someone's beating you down or talking to you, you've allowed them to do that. And you can just say, hey, I'm shifting my life. I will no longer allow you to talk to me that way. Sorry. Like, that's it. So those would be my tips for that.
Yeah. And just knowing, and those are great tips. And I really like that phrase. I'm definitely going to use it. And I wish I had that about 4 years ago. But I think what the message that I want to just be clear is, it's a choice, right? So for a lot of us, even identifying our intuition, like really starting to understand who we are at our core, whether that's anxiety or it's empathy, or we're sort of allowing our people to burst our bubble or penetrate that. Like, it's all very much a choice. And at the end of the day, it's our happiness. It's our level of joy. It's our level of radiance that we're sort of allowing to be ruined.
Yes, exactly.
And so in terms of business, what are some of the steps that people can take to bring these elements of like intuition and empathy and compassion and all of that stuff sort of into their daily routine? And other than meditating, we already talked about that, but how would that show up from like a business perspective?
All kinds of ways. So to use intuition in your business, you have to be clear about what your desires are. So think of your intuition. You know, it's just like similar, you go to a restaurant, you don't sit at the table and expect them to know what you want. You look at the menu and you tell them what you want. Okay. So you can't just create a business, like start a business and then be like, show me what to do. You know, you have to be like, this is what I want. Hence, this is the purpose of vision and goal. So you're like, I want to make this big of an impact. I want to create this amount of income. I want to help this many people. And so you start to get really, really clear on what your desired outcome is. And then once you know that, when you're sitting in stillness, when you're setting the intention and you're seeing things in creative ways, you start to get ideas. And that's, like I said, there's grounded practical steps, and then there's a spiritual side. So you have to be in the space of receiving the guidance, and to be in the space of receiving the guidance, you meditate, you can use the essential oils, you can play. Like if you're sitting there and you're so contracted and you're stuck, and you know, that's not going to serve you at all. But if you can get outside and run around or turn on the music and dance, then you're in the receptive mode and you can get an idea. So, all right, the three things that you really want to do and to use intuition in business is, one, be clear about what it is that you want and write that down. Be really, really clear. Two, get yourself in the receptive mode so you can hear the guidance. And then three, take guided action. And this is where a lot of people get stuck, hence what you were talking about earlier, how you think you're crazy or you think you're making it up. And so the perfect example I have about this, it's like a really big example, I love sharing this, is when I was getting ready to launch my book into the world, I didn't know how I wanted to do it. So the book was finished. I had just spent an entire year, I mean, like every waking second, getting this book ready to a point it wasn't healthy. I spent so much time on it. But as a first-time author, it's tough to get a literary agent. But I have somehow, because of following my intuition, had a couple of different literary agents reach out to me with interest. And these were like legit literary agents that were repping New York Times bestselling authors that we all know. And for whatever reason, this is like had been my goal and that's what I wanted. But there was something in my gut, in my intuition telling me, don't do that. Don't sign with an agent. Don't sign with an agent. And I didn't understand why. And it's like I'd had these conversations with these agents, and they were these reputable agents, but they just weren't as excited about my book as I was. So basically, to make a long story short, I sat in meditation. I followed my guidance, even though it didn't technically make logical sense. And I published my book with Balboa Press, which is a division of Hay House. Into the vision of Hay House. It ended up leading to an opportunity within 2 months of publishing my book to be a speaker at the Hay House World Summit. So I was now on a speaker's panel with Doreen Virtue, Deepak Chopra, Gabby Bernstein, everyone that I'd been obsessing with and studying under for the past 3-4 years. And so it's like, if I hadn't not followed my intuition and gotten the agent, that opportunity would have never happened. Because of that opportunity, my work was exposed to so many people. It was just such a huge honor and truly a dream come true. So follow your intuition in the way that you feel, even when it doesn't make sense.
And that's an amazing story. And I would even take it one step further to say, if you've started something, because this has happened to me. So I've started something and it was a good idea. And then, month 2, you're like, you're not feeling it. And then it just like gets worse and worse, but you're like, I'm so knee deep in it. Can I backpedal? Can I quit? And I would just say, yeah, do it. Because if you're really not feeling it, that's intuition. That's the same thing. And I think a lot of people are afraid to sort of throw in the towel at that point, thinking that they're going to be a quitter. But that's not the case.
Yeah. Or like sometimes what you can do is tweak it. Like if it doesn't feel good, you can sometimes change whatever you're doing into something that does feel good. And I've done that a lot in my business and it works. And it's just like trial and error and just being open and receiving what it is that you need at that moment in that time.
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually a really good point. And I've definitely done that too, where we sort of, iterated as we've gone, and then other times too, I'm like, you know what, this just isn't, I don't want to do this, like, period. It's not making me feel good. And I really don't want to do it. So before we hit record, you were saying that you had some meditations that you thought would be really helpful.
Yeah, I have a couple of different free guided meditations, and that really helped me to open my intuition, to connect. It made it easy to meditate. And so I have a couple we can link below, but the one that I think would be really great is the life purpose meditation, because the life purpose, you're always growing and evolving as you grow. And so it's like a lot of times if you're feeling called to intuition, that's part of your life purpose. So it's a 12-minute meditation, and it can honestly really help you protect your energy, help you open up to your intuition, and help you get insight on the next steps of your business through your life purpose.
Amazing. And we will definitely link to those. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and your stories. And this was such a good conversation. I know for me, and I know that it's going to help a lot of people really just settle into their own intuition, into their own gifts and powers. If people have more questions or want to reach out to you, where can they find you?
Yeah, of course. My website is SuzanneAdamsInc.com. And then I'm on Instagram as @SuzanneAdamsInc. And then Facebook, the page is the title of my book, which is Musings of an Earth Angel.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing your time today. Thanks everybody so much for listening, and we'll talk again soon.
I do hope you enjoyed listening to this episode of the Business of Becoming podcast. As always, you can find any resources and links mentioned on the show over on the show notes available on LoriKennedyInc.com/podcast. And remember to subscribe and leave a review in iTunes. Let me know what you loved most about this episode. And again, thank you for listening to the Business of Becoming podcast.